the Local Government People's Program. This is Adam Spagnolo, candidate for the Osborne ward of the City of Stirling, and with me is Jack Garber. Jack is also a candidate in the Hammersley ward of the City of Stirling. Council elections coming up at the end of September. If you're in the City of Stirling, it will be a postal voting mode of election, and you'll receive all of the information relevant to the election in your mail. Hopefully around about the 30th, I reckon, Jack, 30th?
Around
30th
the 30th
of September.
to the 2nd of October.
In addition to the normal general voting arrangement, there's going to be a plebiscite. Now, as you may or may not be aware, plebiscites are not binding on people. However, with the plebiscite, it is to gauge the community response to the question, would you like the mayor elected under the current arrangement, which is that the mayor is elected by 8 of 14 councillors or 14 councillors, or would you like the mayor elected by the general population of all of the City of Stirling? My position, and I think, Jack, this is your position as well, we support the mayor of the City of Stirling being elected by the general population of the City of Stirling. We see that to be the fairest mode, we see that to be the best mode, and not only that, you get consistency with that sort of mode, and you still have your 14 councillors, but the mayor is a separate person who actually governs over the whole city. Jack, one of the items that has come up in recent times in the media has been this controversial Verge Bond that the City of Stirling is looking to introduce. Now, it's gone out to public consultation, so I do commend the City for that part of the episode. What I don't commend the City for is for the actual policy itself. I know that the Executive Director, Mr. Jarvis, John Jarvis from the Housing Industry Association, certainly was supporting his members who are totally against this. There's also been talk about the building fraternity boycotting the City of Stirling as a result of this policy. I know that submissions closed on Monday, and I have no doubt that the City of Stirling will be deliberating on this, but will they listen to the people, and will they not proceed with this draconian type of legislation or local law where mixers and cutters will not be permitted on verges? What's your view on this, Jack?
Well, look, it just goes to the issue of overregulation and red tape. Contractors and builders have a job to do. They pay dearly for the licenses and permits that they get on any one construction location to the city. They're regulated severely, probably more than any other group of business people
Sure.
in our community. And that's because they're very visual. When you're working on a job, it's real easy for a ranger to be able to see that there's construction going on that
Yes.
particular
Yes.
block. So it's just, to me, further regulation in this area is unnecessary.
It is over-regulated, and look, let's just dissect the whole process. Number one, in many cases, you pay for a planning or DA fee. Obviously, you pay for the building permit. Then you pay for a Verge Bond. So you're already paying for a Verge Bond, which is around $1,500. Plus they charge you $250 to come and inspect before and inspect after. So all you get back is the $1,500, provided, of course, that the verge is intact and the way it was when the officer first came out to photograph it, to make sure that there's been no disruption, or the curb hasn't been broken, or the verge hasn't been left in a mess. Now, what they're also saying now is, no, if you're putting a mixer on the verge, and let's face it, some sites are so restrictive that that's the only place you can put the mixer on. And of course, the other thing is they're saying you cannot put any cutters, so tiles that have been cut, or even the chippies, the roof carpenters. They've got to cut timber, so they use saws and so forth, and they actually set up, if you like, a bench on the verge, because there's the only place, well, that's where the room is. Even these guys, they're going to be in strife if they can't use the verge. And so the whole purpose of that, now they're saying, is if you want to use the verge in that capacity, you need to pay a permit fee. And, the Housing Industry Association And certainly builders are saying, well, hang on a minute, we're paying all these fees, we're already paying a Verge Bond, we're paying a building licence fee. There are certain provisions and conditions on that building licence fee. And in addition, even with the Verge permit, there are certain conditions on there as well. So to impose an additional fee and an additional impost on people or builders, I think is just ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous.
Yes, I agree that I recognize that residents that it may require the use of the footpath, and in some cases, individuals using mobility scooters today
Yes.
have special needs, but it would be a very, very, very rare occurrence for a contractor not to allow for or assist someone in that position, and I don't think it's something that has to be continued to be regulated.
Jack, we need to be obviously conversant, and we also need to be considerate of the sorts of people that you're talking about, pedestrians even. And I think that needs to happen, and it does happen under the current arrangement. If it's not happening, well then that's where the rangers come in, that's where the security people come in, where they go and they warn the builder and say, listen, you may not be aware, but some of your contractors are actually encroaching or infringing on the footpath, and it's very difficult for pedestrians.
Yeah, I agree, Anna.
There are situations where it is difficult and you can't do it anyway.
That's right. Yeah.
But where possible,
arrangements are always made.
Absolutely.
Contractors are always very generous to ensure that they're assisting the public in that situation.
Now, there was something that came up about, I think it was in the community newspaper in the opinion column, about the mayor, where he is a registered builder in his own right, and he is actually encouraging builders to obviously oppose this new local law that's being proposed. And that's all very well and good, and he can be commended for that. But I think what the person in the newspaper is saying is, well, hang on a minute, if you're already a builder yourself, don't you have a conflict of interest asking other builders to do this, given that the local government that you're the head of is actually putting this proposal out there? What's your view on that, Jack?
Well, first of all, we both agree with the mayor's position for once. And
yes, absolutely.
However, as a sitting councillor, and especially as a mayor, he shouldn't be using his,
and as a builder,
he shouldn't be using his position to influence voters in a situation like this. He can. There's definitely a conflict, but this is happening over and over and over again in many, many situations. We could find many examples of an attempt to influence the politics of the city on the part of Mayor Coatelan.
And look, Jack, I think there's a lot of inexperience up at the City of Stirling, a lot of inexperience with staff, a lot of inexperience with councillors. That coupled with the fact that they are gagged and cannot speak up, I think this is where the problem lies. Yeah. Because you know what, if I was a councillor around that table and something like this was going to come about, I would be the first person to put my hand up and say, hey, just a minute, before we put this out there, let's research it. Let's not put it out there and stir people up the way you have. You know, times are tough out there for builders and all sorts of contractors, and then to add to their woes by doing something like this without thinking it through is absolutely irresponsible in my opinion.
Yes, I agree. Look, it's not. There are examples after examples after examples of irresponsible behavior on the part of council, including matter came up regarding the leases for sports clubs throughout the whole community. And some sports clubs would like to know if they're in the ballpark on their lease. In other words, are they paying the same amount as the same club is using the same facility?
In other words, is there consistency?
Yeah, is there consistency among? And it's come out that the officers have made a decision, that being the CEO, has made a decision that those leases are confidential. and they're not open to public review, nor are the rates charged to sporting clubs available for one sporting club to see what the other sporting club might be paying.
Jack, I thought the City of Stirling was transparent, and certainly they're promoting that.
Yeah.
You know, I think people have a right to know, ratepayers have a right to know if they're getting a similar deal or a proper deal or a fair deal, like everybody else is getting.
Sports clubs, for example, have a following.
Yes.
And we don't have any idea whether or not a individual who favors one sports club in the city
Yes.
is giving a break to the sports team that they're barking for.
That's certainly an area that I'll be looking at, Jack, and I'm sure you'll be looking at as well, because, you know, these are our future athletes. These are our future champions. And unless we start from now giving them assistance through the local governments, through the local council, it's just not going to create the desired result and create the champions that we've had in the past.
We just lack the openness, the transparency, and the consultation by the ratepayers that really is required for good government to occur at Stirling.
Isn't it interesting, Jack, that some of the candidates that the Mayor is actually supporting are actually promoting those very words?
Yes.
That is just extraordinary. Look, we'll move on from that one. Look, recently the Minister for Local Government has come out and he's made a couple of comments about these elections. I think his primary role in this is to encourage people to stand for council, indicate that there is an opportunity for people to get out there, put their hand up and represent their community. And look, I commend him for that. But I think the thing that I was a little taken by is that he's also talking about some of the older folk not necessarily being the right people, if you like, for the position. He didn't say that, but he's inferring that by generally saying that, you know, we're looking at people with diverse cultures, we're looking at more women, we're looking at younger people. And then there's also talk about training, and there's also talk about councillors being paid in accordance to their experience. And I'm saying to myself, well, look, that sounds great, but why don't we start with the Parliament first? Why do we have to use local government? Right. And the thing is, the Local Government Act is presently under review. Why not incorporate all of those things in the Local Government Act? Because then, of course, people know where they stand. I'm all for all the things he's talking about, but I think the way it was presented, I'm not sure that it came across that way. Certainly not for me.
No, it didn't. Yeah. I agree 100% with that. I think that in the background, what they're trying to say is that individuals with experience, life experience, government experience, can help clean up and make our local governments better. Yeah. So in a broad view, it's correct. Whether or not you can boil it down to the points that came forward in the comments that were made by the minister, I take exception.
Yeah. Look, I do respectfully point out to the minister that, as far as I'm concerned, you know, people need to understand that the Westminster system of government was set up, certainly for local government as well, where it basically was a selection or a combination of ordinary people: the housewife, the accountant, the lawyer, the doctor, the bricklayer, the labourer. If you have a cross-section of the community in those roles, that is considered under the Westminster system of government to be reflective of what the community is all about or feels about an issue. And I think we mustn't drift away from that. It's all very well to have 20 young blokes on a council, or 10 or 15, whatever the configuration of that council is, but I think you need a mix. And I believe that if you look at most councils, there is a fair mix. There are young people, there are women, there are experienced councils or councillors, and there are some older folk on there as well. There's a bit of everybody.
What's beautiful is, under our system of democracy, is the voters always have a tendency to rise above the dictation of the people who are mandating the information to them.
All right, Jack, I think we'll leave it there for today. I want to thank you very much once again for your contribution to the program. I look forward to seeing you again, obviously, on our next program. And look, the elections are coming up very shortly. We'll talk about that under a separate recording. But I just want to wish you all the best as your candidacy, or for your candidacy in the Hammersley ward of the City of Stirling. I believe that the people of Hammersley will do very well with someone like you around the table, because I know that you're community conscious. I know you attend council meetings. I've actually seen you representing people that have had difficulty with the council and having a few wins. And that is the sort of person that we need around that council table. And that is the sort of person that the Hammersley people need, or the people of the Hammersley ward need, to make sure that Hammersley progresses to the level it needs to.
Well, thank you very much. And likewise, I look forward to sitting at that table with you so we can make a change in the culture of the community, make it a friendlier place to do business, a friendlier place for ratepayers, a better community in general as a result of the leadership that I think you and I can bring to Stirling.
Thank you very much, Jack Garber. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for viewing 101 Business Radio and TV, and of course listening in. We look forward to our next program coming up in a couple of weeks' time. Thank you again for watching and listening, and bye for now.